Hey guys, what is up? It is your friendly neighbor who's here, and I'm going to do a sort of a commentary on a Techies game played by Wagamama. Um, we are going to go player perspective in this. We're just going to watch Wagga play and go over some basic Techies stuff that I think a lot of people either have overlooked or whatever. You know, basically not the most obvious sort of thing. And we're gonna have some nice ass new Dota music going. So yeah, it should, yeah. Okay, so we're automatically on Wagga. It's perfect. So Wagga is playing Boom. Sorry for the lag, by the way. This is, the heroes are loading in. It'll cease once everybody's loaded in. I mean, if you play Dota, you probably know. You probably understand. But, anyway. So, the most important thing to note is that when you're playing Techies, specifically at higher MMRs, or maybe if you don't want to make it about MMR, higher skill level players, you don't want to TP out to lane. Now, I know everybody on Reddit, all the armchair warriors are like, TP to lane, put down 3 mines, max stasis, you know, like, stupid shit. But regardless, don't do it. Reason being, that's 135 gold that you can have extra towards anything else. And if your mines don't get a kill within the first creep wave, basically, it's not worth it. And you're probably like, well, why is it not worth it? I'm investing 135 gold and a clarity, so 185 for a kill at some point, right? But not really, because you could get that kill anyway after a certain point just by laying down mines after getting out in lane, right? So it's, I mean, it's kind of hard to calculate, but the general idea is that you can get that kill anyway. You don't actually have to, you're not required to TP out for it. So as we see Wagga placing down the minefield sign, which is incredibly important. So, one thing that you'll see him do is he'll landmine for CS, and this is another reason that you don't want to TP out, is because you want to conserve as much mana as possible. The thing is, if you're placing 3 landmines, you're going to use 2 clarities, right? That's 100 gold plus whatever the TP. So you're basically investing 235 gold, and you want to save your mana so you can landmine creep waves, because you're not going to last hit with Techies piss poor base damage, right? So you got to use landmines to do it. And landmines are a really good way to do it. So something that you'll notice is that he actually is both threatening the Ember Spirit with suicide, now that he's level 2, as well as just getting free harass on the Ember. Which is important because Ember is not really the most resilient to harass. Sure, you're hitting for, 43 damage at this current point. You're hitting for 43 damage in auto attack, and that's awful. But the thing is, it adds up. And since you have 700 range, you can actually just consistently rack up so much unbelievable damage. And he just soaked a landmine, and then suicide for the kill. So, as you can see, Wagga, what he did there was he actually saved his level 3 point until he knew what he needed. Then he realized that he could get a kill with suicide, so he leveled it up at level 3, suicided, got the kill, and that got him level 4, so now he's just at 202, right? Which is, like, ideal. So the reason that the build that Wagga's going to do, it skips stasis until level 10. And the reason it does that is because if you actually look at the scaling on Suicide Squad attack, it is bonkers. So all of his stuff scales pretty well. Landmines plus 100 damage, down 5-second cooldown, plus 25 mana every level, right? Except the last level's an extra 5 mana, but still. Like, all of his stuff scales really well. This goes up to a 6-second stun, whatever. This increases pretty well in every aspect, basically. But the thing is, this goes up a total of 900 damage over the 4 levels. And it's composite, mind you, so it's probably not going to actually be a total increase of 900, but it's still going to be significant enough that it's worth it. So at this stage of the game, he's level 5 at 3 minutes. The Ember Spirit is starting to fall behind. As you can see, the Ember has about half Waga's CS. And the reason that's like a big deal is because Techies has awful base damage, right? And this just means that Waga is playing the lane pretty much as best as you can. And that's also why he starts Null Tally, because it's very important that you get early last hits, and it's really hard to do it without a Null Talisman. And that's the other thing, is that if you buy Null Talisman, you can't do the TP out to lane strat. So obviously I'm kind of always going back to that point about don't TP out to lane, but I really think it's an important thing to know, is that you really shouldn't do it. It's generally a waste of resources in both gold and time. So, and as you can see, he can actually just keep zoning the Ember Spirit by placing landmines to last hit. Because if you're against a melee hero, you decimate them. All you have to do is auto attack them frequently and place landmines to CS. And then you'll win the matchup. Now Ember's starting to catch up because Waga's getting a rune, the second rune. But it's okay, because the thing is, Ember has only denied 2 creeps, Waga's denied 1. It's basically irrelevant. The thing is, the mid lane is supposed to be incredibly heavy on contesting CS, so both players are going to try and contest each other heavily, but what Techies allows you to do is essentially ignore that, just by last hitting with landmines, which is basically undeniable. So, something you saw him do there was he dropped his Null Talisman to Soul Ring. There's a lot of conflicting info on this, but there is a determined sort of thing what it does. The only time, yeah, easy kill. So he set up a remote mine and then threw the second one down, detonated both simultaneously. Bounty got the last hit, whatever. It's pretty basic stuff. So the way that Soul Ring works is that if you're 150 mana or more under your max mana, it will just fill up your mana pool. Okay? And then if it would push you over your max mana pool, it'll essentially let you borrow mana, right? It'll give you temporary max mana pool. But what happens is, if it's just giving you the mana, if it's not increasing your max mana pool, what you can do is drop int items to Soul Ring, and it'll give you more than 150 mana total. And if you're wondering why that works, it's the same thing as you've probably like heard of what people do with bottle and whatnot, where you will drop stat items to bottle or tank or salve or whatever, right? It's the same concept, except that you're doing it with burst mana, which is safer if anything. So he's gonna start walking to this rune, but he's watching the Ember and he's just gonna jump. So whatever. So yeah, every time that you Soul Ring, you want to drop mana items, and it'll give you significantly more mana. It might not be significant each time, but it will be significant in the long run. So, and a couple more important things to note in the laning phase with Techies is that once you have level 3 landmines, you can actually start last hitting creeps a lot more consistently. Once you have level 3 landmines, each creep has to lose just a chunk of health, not too much, but like a little bit, and then you can drop it and it'll kill it. Once you have level 4 landmines, you just have to hit every single creep in the wave one single time and get the full damage on the melees and then the partial damage on the ranged, and it will one-shot the full wave. And that will go on for minutes, like a pretty long amount of time. So you can keep doing it for a long period of time. So what Waga could be doing right now, which is what a lot of techies have been doing since the hero got released, is he could just be setting up a million mine traps, somewhere like over here by top rune or even bottom rune. Who knows? Just anywhere, He could set up mine traps. But the issue with that is that whenever you're setting up mine traps, that's time that you're not getting experience or gold, right? It might pay off in the long run to give you the experience or gold, but you need to begin an experience and gold snowball effect, basically. And why it's so important is because you kill people more the higher level you are. And I know that sounds really dumb. It sounds like a very basic thing to do. But it's true. If you look at the remote mines, if you have... So at level 1, they're going to do 225 after resistance. That's fairly low. This means that this mine trap is 675 damage, right? That's on the low end. That's fairly low. Now it'll do another 225, which is actually almost enough to kill. It'll kill some heroes, not all. But the thing is, once you level it up to 450, once you level it up to level 11, it does 450 before resistances. That means after resistance, it'll be... I didn't do the exact math. I can think it through, though. Give me a minute. But you subtract a quarter, right? That's basically just how it works. Composite's a bit more confusing on the damage calculations, but essentially it'll deal an additional, like... it won't be... Yeah, it'll be like 100 something. Like low 100 damage onto each mine. Which scales as you scale mines, right? So it's like, oh, you're thinking, you know, that's a couple damage, like 100 damage. That sounds great. 3 mines, that's 300 damage. That's amazing, right? That's really, really strong scaling. All of his abilities scale similarly. So it's very, very important to never stop getting experience as Techies. So he's briefly setting up mines because he sees a battle happening top. So he's taking a moment to set up mines in a possible retreat path, right? That is at least the idea. All these heroes are very, very low. He's going to get the last hit. So this Mirana is like in a real tough spot. But it's like really scary to go. And then Bounty's just too much of a man or something. So, when it comes to boot choice as Techies, you can pretty much do any boot that you want. So there he just realized that there was no way to actually survive there, so he just went for the suicide. Even though it didn't hit any heroes, it, you know, got some farm, didn't give them a kill. So right now, even though it says he has 2 deaths, he's essentially got 0, because both were suicides. But you can pretty much build any boots on Techies. The top choices would be Tranquils, Arcanes, and then Wagga likes to go Treads a lot of the time. And a lot of people are probably like, ooh, I don't know about Treads. But the logic behind it is pretty sound. Is the fact that, you know, it can be any stat you need, makes bottling more efficient, makes soul ringing way more efficient. Treads, I don't know, Treads makes sense. It makes all your casting more efficient. It's just, Treads is a heavy efficiency item, and Techies is very based on efficiency. So, the reason that Wagga went Arcane Boots in this game is because this trick right here. Arcane Boots, more than most other items, is very, very strong when used in conjunction with the dropping to Soul Ring. And the reason being is it gives 250 mana. It's significant. And so this is essentially what you want to build if you're going to be basically mining off cooldown. If you're playing a farm-heavy core like mid lane, which is what he was this game, so it makes perfect sense. And he was off to a great start, so he can afford it as well. It's a somewhat difficult build-up, but if you can get it, then it's definitely worth it. So now he's putting down his first stasis trap. He put a remote mine up on the cliff for vision. He then put 3 mines on the rune. So the importance of putting all 3 of your mines in one spot is kind of lost on some people, I think. So the benefit of putting all 3 on one spot is that if somebody walks over that spot, they will walk over the landmine, right? And then there's the psychological, oh god, turn around, right? Because you blew up something, maybe there's more, so you turn around. And it takes 2 seconds for Stasis Trap to actually trigger. So After the landmine is triggered, 2 seconds later the stasis trap will go off if they're on the same exact spot. And if they have that oh shit moment where they walk over the mine and then turn around, then the stasis trap will stun them. And then you have 3 to 6 seconds, depending on your level of stasis trap, to decide if you want to blow up your remote mine. So here we see Wagga in like not a great spot. It's some kind of a mess or something. So he takes the easy way out and gets a kill with it as well. So Blink Dagger is not exactly core on Techies, but it's very strong if used properly. Obviously, if you're building Techies this way, then an early Blink Dagger can be incredibly strong because you're going to have max suicide at this point. And max suicide, of course, does 1550 damage. Composite, of course, so it's not that high. But 1550 damage if you're within 200 range of them. And obviously your hero doesn't move very quick, so you need some way to get in quickly. Blink Dagger is the best way to do that. Force Staff is good, but it's slower, so people can react. Blink Dagger is just blink, suicide, done. Right? That's it. And sure, suicide cooldown's long, 2.5 minutes at level 4, but you know what? That means every 2.5 minutes you can essentially get a free kill. So, one thing that you're not actually seeing Wagga do at all, which I think is not nearly as important as I'm about to make it seem, but it can be important against certain heroes, namely Abaddon. If you have mines, and there's no way I can actually show this in a replay, I would have to show it just by playing Techies, but if you have a mine anywhere on the ground, and this was a new addition to Dota, like with this patch. If you have a stack of mines, or even just a single mine, and then you select it as well as your hero, you can actually cast on the portrait of it. The portrait that appears down here where your stats is. When you select multiple units, there's, you know, it lines up all the portraits. If you click on the portrait, it will place it on the exact same location. And you're probably wondering, hey, why does that matter for Abaddon? Well, the way that Abaddon's ultimate works is that if he takes enough damage, right, if he goes under the HP threshold, it will trigger his ultimate. And one great thing about that is that if you have landmines like Wagga has here, as you can see, there's, I mean, we can't see now, but I'll go free camera for a sec so we can look at it. So as you can see here, he has 2 mines that are not exactly in the same spot. This means that if one of these is detonated, not both of them will be detonated simultaneously. They'll be close to simultaneous, but not quite. And if you stack mines exactly on top of each other, they will detonate simultaneously. And that matters because if they are not perfectly synced, Abaddon's ultimate will trigger. But if you can deal enough damage to get him from above the threshold to dead in essentially what is 1 game tick, so simultaneously, then he won't trigger his ultimate. And obviously, there's not an Abaddon in this game, but it's still not, you know, it's still an okay habit to get into as long as it's not losing too much time. For the most part, though, you can actually just do this and just click. And they'll be stacked pretty much enough to kill anybody but Abaddon. So, Regen is one of the best runes in the game for Techies, as you can see. It's really funny, though, because Techies is so mana hungry that you can actually run out of the regen. Like, you can legitimately run out of the regen. I've done it multiple times while playing Techies. So, as you can see, the spots he's mining are common enough, but not so much so that people start de-warding or de-mining, you know, on a whim. They're still common enough that people are going to walk through, though. Now that the game is paused, I'm actually going to take a second to look at a couple spots that I think a lot of people should start mining if they don't already. Obviously, tops of staircases, as we saw, are really good. Somewhere in this region here is really good as well. Generally, like, higher up towards the cliff, because landmines will block camps. So, and this camp spawn box, it does end right about at the staircase, but it is good to have mines up higher though, so when somebody maybe comes to ward or try and de-ward, or even just walking out, you know, this direction, it'll blow up. Obviously inside of trees, so it's almost impossible to demine. Something like this is good as well, like Luna would have triggered it almost if they were there. This spot, this staircase is a really, really good spot. Even if it's on the staircase, it's really good. Actually, if you put it like here, I want to say, on like the second step of the staircase, you actually can't see it unless you're on top of it, I think. I think that's how it works. I don't know. I haven't actually done any testing with it, but inside the Roche pit's really good as well. But generally, you want it to be right in this little nook, because you can see a little bit here outside of it. Where did that? Yeah, so he walked into the other trap. So yeah, we're gonna see him set up some mines here. If you're, you know, on the bottom part of the map, just anywhere in the trees. There's so many trees to just stick it in, right? Like, and this spot right here is amazing. If you actually put remote mines on this, it'll hit a box around it, like that, something like that. So people coming in and out of the jungle can get hit while you have a ward. So that's really cool. Also worth noting, remote mines do not block camps. The ultimate mine does not block camps. So feel free to use those even if it's in range of a camp. And that can actually like kill people. Like if you just put a stack of remote mines right here, who's gonna try and de-mine ancients, right? And then they come to farm it, and then you just blow it up and they die. It's a really good spot. But yeah, anyway, just the main points of Techies is to just understand that you're trying to be as efficient as physically possible, while also trying to metagame your opponents. And the metagaming is so important. Let's see what happens. Oh, RIP mines. So a lot of people would be like, they're hitting my mines, I'd better pop them all. But there's really no point, right? Just let them blow them up, make them waste more time. You're not going to hit the heroes unless they have under 400 attack range, or 400 or under, I guess. Because this, once this is level 2, it has over 400 AoE. It's weird though, 400 range heroes can actually demine the first rank without getting hit by the blast. Which is just the way that essentially the range is calculated in the game. But yeah, so right now Waga is pretty much doing exactly that. He's land mining up the large camp, because this is obviously a very common camp for people to farm, especially when they're losing and on dire, because they can't really go too far out of their base. So you want to gradually move your mine traps with the front of the battle. So right now the front of the battle is basically the entrance to the dire base. So you want your mines to be a little bit outside of that. Only a little bit, which means that this mine spot is pretty much perfect. So unfortunately that won't kill the Lone Druid, so he's not going to go for it. He shouldn't, at least. He is watching, though. He feels it. He could blow it up and go for a suicide if he really wants to. Bounty has a Deso. Apparently Veno died bot lane, where the other 4 heroes were. So, something else important is you want to build an Aghanim scepter in every single Techies game ever. And even if that sounds stupid, just do it. You're never going to regret it. Never. Like, the strength of Aghanim scepter is just unbelievable on this hero. Not only does it give you the utility of being able to cast farther, but it essentially is an extra level in remote mines. It just adds 150, which is how much it scales per level, onto every single rank. So it's essentially a level 4 remote mines once you have level 3. And the strength of that is that once you have either level 3 remote mines or level 2 remote mines with Aghanim Scepter, both being 600 damage, you can one-shot any creep wave. Well, not megas, but, you know, I think there's also a certain point that regular creeps will be too strong or something, but for the majority of the game, you will be able to one-shot full waves, which is huge for flash farming. Because like we said, this hero is all about efficiency. So you just want to be as efficient as possible and being able to cast, you know, a 300 mana spell or a 240 mana spell to farm 4 last hits or 5 last hits is crazy. So yeah, now Wagga has his Aghanim scepter. I think there might currently be a bug with Ags where it actually applies the Aghanim scepter to remote mines that have been previously laid before you get the Ags. I could be wrong, but it definitely feels that way, and that's 100% a bug if that is the way it works. So yeah, now people are just basically, they're trying to demine with their bodies, which is not the safest, but you know, what are you gonna do? It's working out for the opponent, so it's, you know, it's not bad. I also would like to note that Wagga has suicided 3 times in this game, so he actually is still on a streak, and yeah, he hasn't actually given up any gold. So yeah, that's another benefit to the Suicide Max build. Suicide Max second, of course. You never ever max anything but landmines first. But the decrease in cooldown, although only 30 seconds over all of the ranks, and as you can see, Aghanim's ulti is just insane. Looks like Bounty's gonna die. Ooh, Venom's going in. But yeah, look at that damage, it's crazy. And then the landmine too. Go for it! He did it! So another suicide. Chalk it up. What was I saying? Something... Oh yeah, 30-second... Even though it's only a 30-second decrease on the suicide cooldown over all 4 ranks, it's still substantial. Because it's, you know, every 150 seconds versus every 180 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but after, you know, some number of suicides, it ends up being essentially 1 free suicide. And I know that's incredibly vague because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you get the idea. If you just think about it, it makes sense. And you'll never be caught. If you're doing this build, you can definitely play a lot riskier more often. Just because you always have the pocket suicide. So, I don't remember what the next item he gets is. I have the Dota buff thing up on my second monitor, but unfortunately Wagga's items are covered by OBS. But oh well. We'll find out. So, one thing that is bothering me though is that Wagga's not quite, you know, efficiently using his soul ring anymore, which might not matter. Might matter. Who knows? The thing is, it's really hard to say what is good or bad about, you know, electing to not do efficiency things for the sake of effort/time commitment, if that makes sense. It's definitely a really hard thing to quantify. But, you know, maybe at some point later he'll be short 5 mana on an incredibly crucial timed remote mine, and then they'll miss 2 kills because of it or something. Who knows? You never know. So you might as well try and play, you know, as efficiently as possible. So it's not great what he's doing, but, you know, it'll work out. Probably. So something I didn't note earlier is the fact that landmines do a shit ton of damage to buildings. And when I say a shit ton, I mean that they do 600 composite damage, and because towers don't have magic resistance, it's only reduced by the armor. So that means that towers will take a significant chunk of 600 damage. What is the highest armor tower? I don't remember. But it takes a lot of armor to get to 50% resistance. So he goes in for a suicide with the Aegis. Didn't get any kills, but he got a lot of damage on a lot of heroes. And because they have a Veno, I think that's pretty okay. So you'll see him actually cancel cast. And look, that Ember was actually going to go for the Veno until he saw the remote mine placed. So it's really important to zone people by, you know, visibly showing them what you're doing. Because then they'll never go there. Even if it's one single remote mine, they'll think there's more. So again, it's very heavy in terms of just metagaming your opponents, but again, I was saying something. I don't remember. Whatever. We're moving on. It's probably Mystic Staff. Yeah, okay. So, obviously you understand that Techies needs a lot of mana. And he actually benefits really heavily from both straight up mana pool as well as mana regen. Just because he's really hungry. So like, for example, Storm Spirit prefers mana regen over mana because he has the percent mana cost of his ultimate. And it's just better because he wants to, you know, cast a lot of low casting cost spells frequently. But one that is, you know, dependent on his mana pool. So he wants a lot of regen. While Techies just wants anything having to do with mana. We're going to see him blink and mine. So now he's going back to the efficiency thing. Dropping high mana items to Soul Ring and Arcane Boots. And look at that. Look at how much mana he has now. He just had not enough mana to cast remote mines, and now he actually has an additional 500. Like that is how drastic the Soul Ring and Arcane Boots can work. As you can see, he's staying on the outskirts of fights at all times. He's blowing up remote mines. Okay, so here's a cool thing. Once you have a max stasis trap, the stun lasts for 6 seconds, and look, the Weaver walked back into it. Wagga wasn't exactly in position. If he blinked, he would have been. But it takes 5 seconds from you starting the animation for stasis trap for it to actually trigger, because it has a 1 second cast time, it has a 2 second arm time, and then a 2 second delay. And he could have gotten that kill, but he wasn't paying enough attention. And then a 2 second activation time. So all this together means 5 seconds. That means that if you get a stasis trap on somebody, right? If you get a... Nice. If you get a 6 second stasis trap on somebody, and then you can get there within 1 second to place a new one, they will be hard stunned for 12 seconds. Which is bonkers. Absolutely crazy. And that's another huge reason to get a Blink Dagger if you are going to, you know, consider the Blink Dagger as part of your item build. It's definitely worth considering what you can do with Stasis Trap. So, as you can see, he's just casually, you know, just dropping items. He's just casually blinking up to mine the tower because it does so much damage. Like, now this tower's basically dead. And all he did was throw 2 mines at it, and his team hit it a couple times. Also, that Ember Spirit with the Blade Mail, don't build Blade Mail against Techies. Alright, just don't. Stop it. Please. Everybody saw that one Reddit post from like a month ago, and they were like, "Gah! Blade Mail just counters Techies. He just dazzle Shallow Grave Blade Mail, and then he gets one shot." But he doesn't, because they changed that. They changed it in like the second Techies patch in the test client. And then it stayed that way after getting reported multiple times, so it's clearly an intentional change. but people just are gonna probably complain about it a lot. Just don't build Blade Mill against Techies. Or, well, Necro's okay because you can Minesweep with it, but he won't take the damage from the Necro dying. The best counters to Techies are just Detection, Gem, Necro 3, as well as summoned units. Although summoned units do fall off in the late game because a lot of his traps are just going to be heavily remote mines rather than land mines, which means that you can't trigger them without actually seeing them or Techies himself triggering them. But yeah, this game is pretty much over. You can landmine both racks at the same time with full damage if you have proper positioning. There might be one set of racks that you can't do that on. I don't remember. I think all the racks have very, very minusculely different spacing. It's kind of the same thing as the tier 4s on Radiant versus Dire. How on Radiant, if you're Jakiro, you can Liquid Fire. Just goes in for a double kill suicide. Also worth noting, Waga never died. He never gave up his streak. He literally suicided every time he died. So, you know, try to suicide. Do it a lot. You don't actually lose any... Well, you lose stuff, but the enemy team doesn't gain anything. But anyway, that was some commentary on Techies. I think it probably helped some people. Hopefully it helped you. If not, I'm sorry or something. I don't know. But thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time.